My name is Dr. Nassi. I'm here to present my talk, which the topic is towards electro-optical sound eavesdropping. Now, I will start by introducing myself. I have a PhD. I'm a graduate PhD student from Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. I'm also a computer scientist and a former Google employee. And I'm an InfoSec researcher at Cyber at BGU. I'm also a frequent conference speaker. This is a partial list of the conferences that I gave talks in the last 2 years. You can find them Black Hat and RSA conferences and other interesting conferences as well. You can find, for those of you who have interest in my work, the videos of these conferences on my website. And in these conferences, I usually present my research, and my research focus and most of the activity that I do is in the area of security of semi and full autonomous vehicles. For example, about 2 years ago, we were able to present a remote attack against Tesla and Mobileye that causes Tesla's autopilot to stop the car in the middle of the road due to a digital advertisement, a compromised digital advertisement that presented in front of it. 3 or 4 years ago, I presented another research of mine, which was how to detect illicit drone filming. And in another topic or another area that I investigate is security of IoT devices. For example, how to attack smart irrigation systems, how to establish a cover channel via a multifunction printer, and how to do verification for a handwritten signature via smartwatch. And finally, what you come here to hear, it's the area of electro-optical sound eavesdropping. Now, a few notes regarding today's talk. This talk is based on 3 studies that I've conducted in the last 3 years. 2 studies were already published. They name Lamphone, which was published about 2 years ago, and also Glom attack that was published this year. And you will be the first to hear about the Glom attack, and we also you will be the first to hear about a new study of that we haven't published yet. We intend to publish it during next year. Its name is the little seal bug. Now, this is the agenda for today. We will start with background of sound eavesdropping methods. We will discuss about related works. We will then discuss about electro-optical sound eavesdropping. We will cover Lamphone, Glom attack, and this little seal bug. And at the end, we will end up with some takeaways. And on the spare time that we will have, I will take some questions from the audience. Okay, so let's start to understand what is exactly sound eavesdropping. Now, according to Wikipedia, eavesdropping is the act of secretly recovering sound from a target victim without his consent. Okay? This is one sentence that defines eavesdropping. Now, you should know that most of the methods related to sound eavesdropping were developed by R&D departments of secret agencies, not by the academia. However, some methods were also were also developed by the academia, and as a result, they are known to the public. And for example, there is an early evidence of science in the area of sound eavesdropping, which appeared around World War II and maybe even some before. Okay, so let's understand what is exactly the related work in this area. So, in recent years, the scientific community suggested various ways to recover sound. Okay, however, you can basically categorize them into 2 categories. The first one is the internal methods, and the second one is the external methods. So let's try to understand, first of all, what is the internal methods. Now, internal methods are methods that rely on data obtained by a device located in proximity to a victim. Okay, by a device, by a compromised device. And it was demonstrated how, for example, motion sensors of smartphones can be used to recover data obtained from motion sensors of smartphones. Now, for example, gyroscope and accelerometer can be used to recover speech. Okay, it was also demonstrated how data obtained from the LiDAR of a robotic vacuum cleaner can also be used to recover speech. And from an eavesdropper perspective, the greatest advantage of these methods are that, in fact, they are permissionless. It means that if an eavesdropper wants to basically obtain the data, for example, the data from the motion sensor or the data from the LiDAR, you won't need to basically, the application doesn't require any spatial permission to do it. You can obtain motion sensor data even without showing it to the user of the application. Okay, so they are permissionless, and as a result, it is easy for attackers to obtain data without basically telling the user that they do so. However, the greatest disadvantage of these methods is the fact that they require the attacker basically to compromise the device with a malware, either in the application or either in the device itself, in order to obtain the data and also exfiltrate the data from the device to the attacker via the internet. Okay, so attackers or eavesdroppers need to basically compromise a device with a malware in order to do so. And as a result, there is a second category which I define as external methods. And external methods are methods that rely on data obtained by a remote sensor, okay, which is not located near the victim. The victim is the one that basically do the conversation, the one that we intend to recover the content its conversation. Now, for example, it was demonstrated that a laser microphone can be used to recover sound, okay? And this is, for those of you who are not familiar with laser microphones basically relies on a laser transceiver to recover sound by directing a laser beam toward an object, okay? This can be, for example, a bag of chips that is located near the victim, and analyzing the object's response to sound. Now, if you think about it, this is pretty amazing, okay? Because from an eavesdropper perspective, this is completely an external method. This method doesn't require the eavesdropper to compromise any device with a malware, okay? Moreover, this can be applied in real time. However, the greatest disadvantage of this method is the fact that this method is active. It means that basically a laser beam is utilized in order to obtain data that can be used to recover sound. And as a result, it gives indication for the victim or the organization that this method is being applied by someone, by an eavesdropper, to recover sound. Now, finally, it was demonstrated about 5 or 6 or maybe 7 years ago by a group of scientists from MIT, a new method, an innovative method. They named it the visual microphone. Now, the visual microphone basically uses a high-frequency video camera that able to capture about 2,000 frames per second. And they did it, and they used this amazing video camera in order to recover sound by analyzing the object's response, its vibration. Okay, for example, take a bag of chips. They analyze the vibration of the bag of chips to sound from the frames. Okay, this is why they use a high-frequency video camera. Now, the visual microphone is an amazing method that was demonstrated by the guys from MIT. It is also external method. You don't need to compromise any device with a malware. Okay, it is passive as opposed to the laser microphone, which utilizes a laser beam. In this case, this is being done via a video camera. This is completely passive. As a result, the user or the victim doesn't have any indication that this method is being utilized or being used to recover sound. However, there are two main disadvantages for this method. First of all, it cannot be applied in real time. It requires heavy computational resources in order to process this amount of frames in real time, and as a result, this cannot be obtained in real time. Just for you to understand, they were able to recover 3 hours of sound, 3 seconds of sound in 3 hours of processing. And also, it was demonstrated only against, I would say, screaming. The authors of this paper haven't demonstrated this method against, I would say, a normal volume or something like the volume that I'm currently speaking in this conference, which is somehow beyond the normal. For example, this is what you will use in a virtual meeting, okay? So this is the greatest advantages of this method. And if I will have to summarize the entire section of related work, I will say that all of the methods that were demonstrated so far basically either suffers from one of the following properties. Some of them require the attackers or the eavesdroppers to compromise a device with a malware, okay? Other are active. It means that they give indication to the victim when they are being utilized by the eavesdropper. And others cannot be applied in real time or can only be used to recover screaming and not, I would say, normal levels of speech as the level that I'm just using. Okay, so this is for the section of the related work. Let's try to understand what is electro-optical sound eavesdropping. Now, electro-optical sound eavesdropping is somehow very complex sentence. However, if I will have to summarize it in a more simple way in 4 words, electro-optical sound eavesdropping is basically converting light to sound. Okay, this is an optical method which converts light to sound. And some of you are probably wonder, how can we convert light to sound? So it goes as follows. The process goes as follows. Sound waves are produced either by a human victim or a victim device. A victim device can be a speaker, for example. A photodiode is directed via a telescope to capture light from a target human or the device. An optical acoustical transformation is performed to isolate the audio signal from the optical measurements. And perceptible sound is isolated from the optical measurements and can be heard by the eavesdropper. Now, some of you probably wonder, what is a photodiode? So a photodiode is a device that converts light into an associated electrical current. Okay, so photodiodes can be sampled by an A to D at any desired frequency rate, given that they have the needed sensitivity to support it. And photodiodes have various uses. For example, to detect the ambient light in smartphone, this is being used to basically balance the light of your the level of light of your smartphone screen. You can see it is integrated to each and every smartphone. However, in this study, we used more professional photodiode. You can see it on the right side. This is the photodiode that we used for our experiments or for our research. Now, here is an interesting fact. We are all carry a photodiode in our pockets right now. They are, as I mentioned before, integrated to our smartphones. So, electro-optical sound eavesdropping, let's discuss about the advantages of this method. Basically, it's external. Okay, you don't need to compromise any device with a malware. This is being done completely with a remote sensor. This is passive. It means that it doesn't give any indication regarding its use. Okay, a photodiode doesn't rely on a laser beam. It is completely passive sensor. Moreover, it can be applied in real time. The transmission from optics to acoustics can be applied immediately. And finally, it can be used to recover speech at normal volume. Okay, now let's start to discuss about the first research that we did. We named it Lamphone. Now, I would say that this research was co-authored by myself, by Yaron Pirotin, by Professor Adi Shamir, Professor Yuval Alovich, and Dr. Boris Zadov. And Lamphone basically converts optical measurements obtained from the movement of a hanging light bulb to sound. Okay, this is a side channel attack for those of you who are familiar with this category of research. This is done by exploiting the small or the subtle changes in light as they are captured by the remote photodiode. And the small changes in light are the result of the small vibrations of the hanging light bulb when sound waves, okay, hit the light bulb surface. Okay, now I would start with a warning. Turning a hanging light bulb into a microphone is a very challenging task. Some of you are probably wonder why. And the fact is that light bulbs were not exactly designed to be used as microphones. So I will try to convince you that despite the fact that they were not designed to be used as microphone, you can exploit their use for a different purpose. And Lamphone's threat model goes as follows. Basically, we assume that there is a hanging light bulb which exists in a target room, and a sound which can be, for example, the result of a conversation made by two colleagues, creates fluctuations, creates sound waves which create fluctuations on the surface of the hanging light bulb. And from here it goes, as I discussed before, there is an eavesdropper which directs a photodiode via a telescope to the light bulb. And the photodiode is being sampled by an A to D. The measurements are given as an input to an algorithm, to an optical acoustical transformation. And the output of the optical acoustical transformation is perceptible sound. Now, some of you probably wonder how small are the hanging bulb vibrations. So in order to answer it, we actually conducted an experiment. We actually attached a gyroscope to the bottom of a hanging light bulb. We took a standard hanging light bulb. This was an E27 12 watts hanging light bulb, an LED. We produced various sound waves between 100 to 400 hertz at different volumes from 70 dB. 70 dB is the amount of volume that I'm currently using, to 115 dB using via speakers. And we sampled the gyroscope at 800 hertz using Raspberry Pi. Okay, we connected the gyroscope to a Raspberry Pi in order to sample or to obtain the measurements from the gyroscope. We computed the angle as the function of the frequency. Okay, the function of the frequency, basically it's the sine wave that was produced from the speakers. For the two angles, which are phi and theta, and these were the results. And the conclusions we made from these results are as follows. Basically, as can you see, the movement is very small. It's in millidegrees. Okay, it's between 5 millidegrees to 60 millidegrees. As you can see, the response is not equal across the spectrum. Okay, the angle changes as a function of the frequency. You can see that there are peaks on 250, however, around 100 and around 400, this is somehow the response is more flat. And finally, as you can see from the results, basically the response increases as the volume increases. This is somehow not very surprising because when you're using, I would say, higher volume, you actually create a stronger vibration from the bulb. Okay? So we wanted to test our method in a real setup, and we decided to evaluate Lamphone's performance when recovering sound from a bridge located 25 meters from an office. And the office contained a 12 watt E27 hanging light bulb, an LED light bulb. And let me show you a video of the experimental setup. Okay, so we placed our equipment where you can see on the bridge, and this is a video of us during the experiment. Okay, you can see two interesting things. First of all, the sound that was played inside the office couldn't be heard from the bridge. It's located 25 meters and there's a glass window closed inside the office. And as you can see, there's the laptop and the telescope, which is used to obtain the optical measurements. A photodiode is placed on top or is mounted to the telescope, and there's an A to D which obtains basically digitizes the optical measurements to digital measurements. And on the right side, you can see how the light bulb looks when it is being, when you look it through the telescope. Okay, you can see it very, very small, and you are about to see that it produces some very interesting very interesting sound. Now, the first experiment that we did, we wanted to characterize the baseline. Okay, the baseline basically is the trying to obtain optical measurements via the photodiode when no sound is played inside the office. Okay, this is what we call the baseline. So basically what we did is we obtained optical measurements via the telescope. No sound was played. We directed the telescope to the light bulb. No sound was played near the light bulb. It was completely silenced. Now these are the results that were obtained. This is an FFT graph of the result. What you can see, there are two interesting conclusions. First of all, the LED bulb works at 100 Hertz. There are peaks around 100 Hertz and its harmonics. It means 200 Hertz, 300 Hertz, 400 Hertz, etc. And as you can understand, this is a side effect. We don't want that this side effect will affect the audio that we intend to basically convert or to obtain. So as you can understand, for those of you who understand some DSP, some digital signal processing, we need to filter this noise with bandstop filters. Okay, so this is one of the first things that we do. And also, as you can see, there is a noise at low frequencies below 50 Hertz. And again, this is, I do not want to get into too much explanations on why. This is the result of the bridge that we located our equipment on it. Again, this can be filtered out with high-pass filter. Again, this is our own side effects. They will affect our audio signal, so we know how to basically filter them out. Okay, so bandstop filtering and high-pass filtering will completely filter these side effects out of the expected audio signal. Now, the next thing that we did is we try to analyze the frequency response of the light bulb to sound. So we actually obtained optical measurements, okay, via the photodiode while the speakers played a frequency scan. A frequency scan is a chirp, okay? A sweep, maybe you are familiar with this name. It was played via the speakers in proximity to the hanging light bulb. Again, we obtained optical measurements from the photodiode that was directed via the telescope to the hanging light bulb. Now, these are the results that we obtained. There are two interesting conclusions that you can see from these results. First of all, the signal-to-noise ratio improves when a telescope with a bigger lens is used. Okay, this is an optical amplification. If you use a bigger telescope, you get a better signal-to-noise ratio. And also you can see that the SNR is not equal across the spectrum. For those of you who understand a bit with DSP or digital signal processing of audio, basically all you need to do is to use equalizer in order to balance the frequencies so they have the same response. So you basically try to, first of all, profile the response, and then you design the equalizer. And the equalizer that we designed, you can see it on the right side. Now, this is a good time for us to discuss about the optical acoustical transformation. So in order to recover sound from light, from optical measurements, you need to basically apply the following, I would say, stages, the following process. First of all, you need to use bandstop filtering and high-pass filtering to filter the side effects. We do some noise reduction, we do some normalization. Basically, we scale the signal to the scale of 0 to 1. We do some noise reduction. We basically apply, for those of you who are familiar with spectral subtraction, this is a classic method being used to reduce noise. And finally, we apply the equalizer that we designed at the beginning in order to basically balance the frequency response of each of the components in the spectrum. Now, the first thing that we try to do is to recover non-speech audio. And in order to do so, we played two famous songs in the target office. The first one was Let It Be by the Beatles, and the second one was Clocks by Coldplay. We obtained the optical measurements and we recovered the signals using the transformation, the optical acoustical transformation that I've presented in the previous slide. And on the left side, you can see the raw data. This is the raw optical measurements that were obtained from the photodiode. In the middle, you can see how the signals looks at the end of the process. And on the right side, you can see the original signals that were played by the speakers or via the speakers, okay? Now, for many of you, it doesn't say a lot because this is completely visual, so let me just try to play you the recoveries. And what I want to show you is that Shazam and SoundHound are able to basically identify the recoveries because they are in very high quality. So the first recovery is this, and let me know that you are able to hear it. Okay, this is the recovery of Clocks by Coldplay, and the second one is the recovery of Let It Be by Beatles. Okay, I think that you can see that Shazam able to recognize them and to identify them. The quality is very good. Now, the next thing that we try to do is to recover speech audio. And in order to do so, we play the famous statement made by the former president of the US, Mr. Donald Trump. We will make America great again. And we obtain the optical measurements and we use the optical acoustical transformation to recover sound. And basically, as you can see, these are the results. On the left side, you can see the original optical measurements that were obtained from the photodiode. In the middle, you can see the recovered signal. And in the right side, you can see the original signal that was played from the speakers. Now, I want to show you, I want to play you the recovery. And as you can see, Google text-to-speech engine able to basically recognize and transcribe the results. Okay.
We will make America great again.
Okay, I hope that you were able to hear it. This is President Donald Trump. We will make America great again. As you can see, Google text-to-speech engine was also able to transcribe it correctly, accurately. So let's try to conclude Lamphone and a few notes about this method. So in the experiments performed in this research, we actually used a small distance between the, I would say, the victim or the speakers and the light bulb. Basically, the recoveries are the result of 5 centimeters. This is something that's between the light bulb and the victim. Okay, and also we use very high sound level in order to perform this experiments. However, by using more professional equipment, and basically this is the A2D and the optical and the photodiode that we are using, we were able to extend this distance between the light bulb and the speakers or the victim to 50 centimeters. Okay, 50 centimeters is something like this. Now, and also we were able to recover it from, I would say, normal speech level. Normal speech level is about the level of a virtual meeting, 70 to 75 decibels. And we're able to produce somehow perceptible sound. I want to show you the demonstrations. You are about to see, you are about to hear demonstration of recoveries of We Will Make America Great Again from 25 meters between the light bulb and the speakers, which were recovered from 15 meters, 25 meters, 35 meters, and 45 meters. And we will start with the original.
We will make America great again.
This is 15 meters. This is 25 meters. This is 35 meters. Okay, so probably some of you are wondering if it's only like a half of a meter, which is something like this, where is Lamphone make sense? So basically Lamphone makes more sense in terms of the fret model as a method to recover sound from a desktop light bulb. okay, in offices setups. Now think about the conversation that you do in front of a desktop, where on top of the desktop there is a light bulb located on top of it, and this is because the standard depth of desks is usually 60 centimeters. Okay, so from 25 centimeters, this is about the half of the depth, and 50 centimeters, this is almost I would say the depth of a standard desktop. So this is where Lamphone makes more sense in terms of its threat model. Okay, as a method to recover sound from a light bulb placed on top of a desktop while you're doing a conversation, whether it's a virtual conversation, whether it's a physical conversation, whether it's a phone conversation. This is where you should be worried about Lamphone. Now,
we will make
the second research that we did in this category, we named it the Glom attack. And the Glom attack is a different type of method. It's also a method that converts light to sound. However, in this case, the Glom attack converts optical measurements obtained from a device power led, okay, to sound. And this is a tempest attack. For those of you who are familiar with tempest attack, this can be done, by the way, because the power led of various devices, and I'm about to show you that most of the devices are basically vulnerable to this attack. The power led of various devices is connected directly to the power line. And as a result, the intensity of the power led correlates to the power consumption of the device. Okay? And also many devices lack a dedicated means of countering this phenomenon. Now, this is Glom's attack threat model. Okay? We basically assume that there is a sound which is the result of a virtual meeting that is being done in an office. The sound is played by a connected speaker or connected speakers. It creates changes in the power consumption of the power led of either the speakers themselves or either, for example, a USB hub which is connected to the speakers. And eavesdroppers basically obtain the optical measurements from the power led of the speakers or from the power leads of the USB hub and recover sound from it using a photodiode. Okay, so this is the Glom attack. Now, the first thing that we do is a nice experiment where we try to analyze why exactly this is even possible. So a USB hub in this experiment was used to provide power to USB speakers, okay, via, of course, the USB cable. And we play the frequency scan, a chirp or a sweep from the speakers. And we obtained 4 signals, okay? 2 of them were signals of the power consumption of the speakers and the USB hub. And 2 optical signals that were obtained from the power led of the USB hub and the power led of the speakers. Okay, so we have a chirp, 2 optical signals and 2 power consumption signals, and which were obtained from speakers and USB hubs and USB hub. And this is the result. On the left side, you can see the original audio that was played from the speakers. Okay, in the middle, you can see the power measurements, the power consumption measurements of both devices, the speakers on top and on the middle, you can see the power measurements of the speakers, and on top and on the bottom, you can see the optical measurements of the speakers. And on the right side, you can see the power measurements obtained from the USB hub and the optical measurements obtained via the power led of the USB hub. And the first conclusion that you can see is that the power consumption and the intensity of the power indicator, LED, of both the speakers and the USB hub, okay, correlate with the sound that was played from the speakers. Okay, you can see the original frequency scan that was played from the speakers, and you can spot it in the power measurements and also in the optical measurements as well. Now, the next thing that you can see is that the manufacturers of these devices do not distort or change the non-linear response of the intensity of an LED to power consumption, and this can easily be done by integrating filters and voltage stabilizers into the electrical circuits, okay? If they would do it, you won't be able to spot this frequency scan inside the power measurements or inside the optical measurements. And one last thing that you can see is that these devices leak information regarding the sound played by the speakers, okay? You can see it, you can spot the chirp function, you can in the power measurements and in the optical measurements that was obtained from the power LED. And the first conclusion that we made is that eavesdroppers can exploit this fact to recover sound directly from the power indicator LED of the speakers. Moreover, eavesdroppers can exploit this fact to recover sound indirectly from the USB hub that was used to provide power to the speakers, okay? So you can go directly from the speakers and indirectly from the USB hub, from the power LED. Now, so probably some of you are wondering which devices are vulnerable to this attack, to the Glom attack. So in 2 words, I would say that many devices, there are smart assistants which are Google Home Mini and Google Nest Audio, and speakers, the greatest manufacturers of speakers, which are JBL, Creative Pebble, Logitech, and Sony, and Beats, which was acquired by Apple. And also you have TP-Link and Miracase for the USB hubs. And interestingly, you also have some microcontrollers, for example, the Raspberry Pi 3 and 4 also leak information via their power LED. So I think that you will agree with me that the problem is universal, okay? Many devices leak information from their power LED regarding the sound played by the speakers. And the recovered SNR, as you can see on top, is basically depends on the device and is affected by the intensity of the power indicator LED of the device and some other factors, which I will say for those of you for the Q&A if you are interested. Okay, so we made the next experiment. We actually recovered speech from various devices by obtaining optical measurements from the power LED of these devices. And we actually played the sentence, don't ask me to carry an oily rag like that. You can see the original spectrogram, and Wiener and Logitech are the 2 speakers, and TP-Link and Miracase are the 2 USB hubs. And I want to play you the recovered signals so you'll be able to hear them. The first 2 that you will hear were recovered from the power LED of the speakers, and the other 2 that you will hear at the end were recovered from the USB hubs.
Don't ask me to play an oily rag like that. Don't ask me to play an oily rag like that. Don't ask me to play an oily rag like that. Don't ask me to play an oily rag like that.
Okay, so in this case, we were able to recover it from about 5 meters. However, we wanted to do some more interesting experiments in order to test how we were able to, the quality of the recovered sound as a function of the distance between the eavesdropper and the target device. Okay, the target device was, in this case, speakers. So we placed the speakers and we placed the eavesdropping equipment, basically the photodiode and the telescope, from 15 meters, 25 meters, and 35 meters. And let me play you the recoveries. This is from 5 meters to 15 meters, 25 meters, and at the end, 35 meters. This is, we will make America great again.
We will make America great again. We will make America great again. We will make America great again. We will make America great again.
Okay, so we actually, this brings us to the last research that we intend to publish next year. And again, you are the first to hear about Glom and also about this research. We named it the Little Seal Bug. It was co-authored by myself, Ras Wissa, Professor Yuval Alovich, and Dr. Boris Zadov. And let me try to explain you what is the little seal bug. The little seal bug converts optical measurements obtained from light reflected from shiny objects, okay, to sound. And this can be done because lightweight shiny objects vibrate when sound hits their surface, and moreover shiny objects reflect sound. Now basically the idea resembles to the idea discussed in Lamphone. However, in this case we are not converting the light from a device which produces light, okay? We actually convert light from reflections of the light on a nearby object, okay? Now, basically the little seal bug threat model goes as follows. We assume that sound basically, which can be done which is probably the result of a conversation made in the room, creates fluctuations on the surface of a shiny object which reflects light. Now, some of you probably wonder what are these shiny objects. So, before I came to here to Abu Dhabi, I was in Dubai. I bought these two nice Burj Khalifa statues. These are the type of the things that can be used to recover sound because they are shiny, and as a result they reflect light that hits their surface. Okay, we didn't use these specific statues in this research. We use our equipment. Let me show it to you. This was basically the equipment that we used to recover sound. Okay, you can see a Master Coffee can. You can see a stand for a smartphone, and you can see a different type of statue of a bird that was used to convert light to sound. Okay, based on the reflections of light on its surface. Now, the entire recovery in this case is the same as in Glom attack, also as in Lamphone attack. Again, the eavesdropper in this case directs a photodiode towards the shiny object and obtain the optical measurements and converts them to sound using the same algorithm or the same transformation that I've presented a few slides ago. And this is basically the evaluation setup, okay? You can see the telescope on the left side, and you can see on the right side how these nice statues of these nice, what we call the little seal bugs, are placed on a desktop. Probably some of you have this type of objects on the desktop. Some of them even reflects light. Master Can Coffee, you can see basically they are standard objects that some of you maybe even got from this conference as well. By the way, I just want to mention they're completely passive. There is nothing inside of them. Completely passive objects were used to recover sound. Okay, so we actually, you're about to hear the recoveries of She Had Your Dark Suit in Greasy Wash Water all year. You will at the beginning hear the original one, and you will see the recoveries from the objects.
She had your dark suit in greasy wash water all year.
She had your dark suit in greasy wash water all year. She had your dark suit in greasy wash water all year. She had your dark suit in greasy wash water all year. She had your dark suit in greasy wash water all year.
Okay, so I just want to mention one thing. The last thing this thing that you're seeing in here is basically a blind shutter. Okay, this is Venetian blind shutter. They are commonly used in offices. We're able to recover sound from these shutter blinds. This is a device which is intended to secure the privacy of individuals inside the room. We're able to recover sound from it because it's light and it is shiny, and as a result it reflects sound. So we use this nice equipment to recover speech from it.
She had your...
Now, I would like to conclude this, basically the talk that I gave, and I will start by mentioning that Lamphone and Glom attack were published in the last year and a half by our group, and we're about to publish a new research next year. We wonder, however, how old they really are. And it seems that in the area of sound eavesdropping, academia is many years behind the R&D departments of secret agencies, and let me explain you why. So for those of you who are not familiar with this nice picture, this is the Great Seal bug, okay? This is a spying equipment that was concealed inside a gift given by the Soviet Union to the United States ambassador to the Soviet Union around World War II in 1945. Okay, it contains an RFID inside of it, and it was completely passive. It was given by the Russians to the Americans, to the American ambassador, and it took the Americans about 6 years, to basically understand that this is not a gift and this is a spying equipment. And during the entire 6 years, it was used by the Soviets to eavesdrop the conversations of the ambassador inside its embassy. Now, why do I ever show it to you? So, the spying equipment is considered the predecessor of the RFID technology, okay? It was used by the Soviets in 1945, and it took the Americans 3 decades, about 3 decades, until it was patented in America as an RFID technology, and as you can, as it is now being used in our smartphones and some other equipment. Okay, so it took basically the public, not exactly the public, but researchers 3 decades to basically develop a device that was used 3 decades before commercially to eavesdrop sound by the Soviets. So it seems that R&D departments of secret agencies lead the innovation in the area of eavesdropping in 3 decades, okay? I would say comparing to the rest of the contestants. This can be, for example, academia or even industry. And let's return back to the Glom attack and Lamphone attacks. And I would say that electro-optical eavesdropping suffers from various limitations, okay? First of all, expensive equipment yields better results, okay? If you have a better A2D, if you have a better photodiode, the quality of the sound that is recovered from or by these attacks is expected to be higher or better. Moreover, attackers need to have a line of sight to basically the device or the object which emits light. And as you can understand, these attacks can basically applied by professionals. Okay, amateurs will probably struggle if they do not know some DSP and some other things in audio DSP. They probably not going to be able to recover the sound from the optical measurements. However, I would like to end with 2 interesting questions for you. Don't ask them, just hear them. The first one is, do you consider an expensive equipment a real limitation to secret agencies that spend basically unlimited amount of resources in order to recover sound for the last 70 or 80 years? Don't answer it, just think about it. I claim that the first limitation is not a real limitation for these agencies. And if we learn something from the past, maybe, and I'm just saying maybe, it is possible that electro-optical eavesdropping has been used for 3 decades without our awareness by these agencies to recover sounds from power LED that are probably integrated to devices before that I was even born, or from hanging light bulbs that are very popular for the last, I'm not sure how many decades, even before I was born. Again, this is only something to think of, nothing else that need to be answered in here. Now, I'm about to take questions from the audience. If you have some, I want to thank you for attending this talk. Asking for 15 minutes of your time is a large request, and I hope that you had fun. Additional talks of mine appear at my website, which you can get from my LinkedIn account. Just scan the QR code. And one last thank is for the guys of Hacking the Box for basically inviting me to give this talk, and for their amazing support to bring me here to be a speaker. This is it. Thank you very much. And this is the time for questions. If you have some, I will be happy to answer them. Okay, so thank you. I see that there are no questions from the audience. This is it for me. Thank you very much again. By the way, if you want to talk with me in person, just find me. I will be in the conference for this 2 days. I enjoy talking with people and discussing with people. Whatever you want. By the way, I do some freelancing work. Again, if you want to discuss about this type of collaboration, come and join me and we'll discuss about it. Goodbye and thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending. We will have a short turnover for the next speaker. In any moment, I will announce the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
I hear myself.
You can use it.
Yeah.